Welcome to the deep dive. We take huge amounts of information, streamline it, and hopefully leave you well informed and maybe just a bit shocked by what we uncover.
And today's topic is definitely ambitious.
It really is. Our mission today is, well, unique. We're diving deep into this user-generated theory that connects something incredibly primal, like basic survival, directly to the future of consciousness, civilization, even AGI alignment.
Yeah, it's quite the leap, isn't it? From pack hunting all the way to universe engineering, but there's a logical thread connecting it all.
Right. The theory is called the triangulation theory. And the core idea is that this specific type of coordination containment really is the engine driving complexity and power.
Exactly. It's about how language enables groups to work together to essentially corner something, whether that's a physical target or even an abstract problem.
And this gives you, the listener, a really powerful new way to look at things. It reframes animal intelligence, yeah, but also social norms, why we have laws, even the ethics of superintelligence.
Once you see coordinated action as this kind of geometric containment, a lot of things start to, well, click into place.
Okay, so let's get into it, starting at the very beginning. What's the core hypothesis?
Yeah.
How does this theory define, high-level sentience based on behavior?
Okay, so the theory puts forward a pretty specific definition. It says an organism is sentient, conscious, and intelligent if it can use language or some form of complex communication to coordinate three or more individuals.
Three or more. Okay.
Three or more. And the goal is to execute what it calls a dynamic triangulation, basically cornering a moving target by eliminating its escape routes in real time.
Ah, dynamic. That's key, isn't it? It's not just surrounding something static.
No, absolutely not. It's about prediction. Predicting movement, coordinating positions on the fly. Like orcas hunting a seal, or maybe chimpanzees coordinating a hunt in the forest.
Okay, I see that.
Hey.
But doesn't that set the bar incredibly high? I mean, what about highly intelligent animals that are mostly solitary hunters, like a snow leopard plotting an ambush? They're smart, right? But they don't fit this definition.
That's a great question, and it's actually a specific point the theory makes. It acknowledges this. This definition isn't trying to capture all forms of intelligence or consciousness.
Wow.
It's specifically testing for what you might call advanced social sentience, intelligence that has evolved the capacity for complex external coordination using language.
So it's about the group mind, not just the individual mind.
Exactly. A solo predator is definitely intelligent, strategically brilliant even, but they don't face that specific cognitive challenge of syncing up multiple minds, multiple intentions towards one complex moving goal. This theory focuses on that coordinated intelligence.
That makes sense. It clarifies the focus. So if an organism can do this dynamic triangulation, what cognitive skills does that imply they must have? Because coordinating three moving parts sounds, well, really hard.
Oh, it's monumentally hard. It requires synthesizing several advanced cognitive functions all at once. If any one of them fails, the target gets away.
Okay, walk us through them.
Right. First up, probably most crucial, is theory of mind. Tom.
Right, knowing others have minds.
Yes, but more than that. Each individual needs to see the others not just as objects, but as distinct agents with their own intentions, their own perspectives. They need to predict what the other guy knows or what they should know about the target and about their own role in the plan.
So it's not just I'm here. It's like, I know you're over there, and I know you know I'm here, and you know I'm going to cut left, so you should go right. That level of understanding.
Precisely, that recursive understanding. Second, they need complex language or syntax. Simple alarm calls, yelps and stuff, that won't cut it.
Why not?
Because the communication needs semantic content, meaning. And crucially, it needs displacement, the ability to talk about things that aren't right here, right now.
Like abstract concepts or things in the past or future or over that hill.
Exactly. If the target suddenly darts into a dense bush, the leader, or whoever's coordinating, needs to instantly communicate a new plan, a new spatial instruction. Forget the slank. Head for the exit point 50 yards that way. That requires abstraction.
Got it. Not just reacting, but strategizing verbally. And the third thing.
The third is executive function. This is about real-time control and adjustment. Everyone involved needs to rapidly change their speed, their angle, their route based on those instant updates from the others.
While still predicting where the target's going.
Exactly. Constantly recalculating everything. And the AGI, when presented with this, actually flagged it as highly validated. Because while all the animals we know for sure can do this, humans, chimps, orcas, maybe some dolphins, they are already considered top-tier intelligent.
Okay, that's the 2D ground level. Let's scale this up because the theory gets even more interesting when you add dimensions. If 2D containment drove intelligence in social mammals, what happens when you go airborne? 3 dimensions.
Right. This brings us to the 3D avian extension, and it provides a really neat potential explanation for why some birds, like corvids, ravens, crows, and parrots, are so remarkably intelligent.
Because flight changes the game completely.
Massively. It just adds so many more variables. In 2D, on the ground, you can often block escape routes with 3 points forming a triangle, basically.
Okay.
But in 3D space, to truly box something in, eliminate all escape up, down, sideways, you generally need at least 4 coordinated agents. Think of the corners of a tetrahedron, a pyramid shape, closing in.
4 points instead of 3. Wow.
Uh,
Okay. That must ramp up the cognitive demand like crazy. You're adding that whole z-axis.
It's huge. You're not just tracking position on a plane. You're calculating velocity, trajectory, angles in 3 dimensions simultaneously for yourself, your partners, and the target.
And coordinating that requires...
Extremely high-fidelity communication. You need precision. The theory argues this intense pressure coordinating complex 3D vectors is what drove the evolution of the sophisticated vocal abilities and intelligence in birds like ravens and parrots. They need a language that can convey very precise spatial, temporal, angular information really fast.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about something like murmuration? You know, those huge swirling flocks of starlings. How does the theory see that? Just flocking.
The theory proposes it's more than just safety in numbers. It sees murmuration as, like, advanced practice, an extension of this multiangulation skill.
Practice for what?
Practice for dynamic 3D coordination itself. It's this massive, decentralized exercise in maintaining group cohesion, avoiding collisions, predicting neighbors' movements, all using the same kind of high-speed predictive 3D modeling you'd need for complex group hunting or evasion in the air. They're essentially practicing vector management at scale.
Fascinating. Okay, so from 3D birds, let's make the leap to human civilization. If we started, evolutionarily, by maybe cornering animals on the savannah, how did we scale that up? How did that physical act of triangulation turn into abstract things like laws, governments, social rules?
This is probably the theory's biggest conceptual jump, but it's crucial. The core claim is that civilization isn't just like containment. It is a form of technologically amplified containment.
Amplified how?
By replacing physical bodies with abstract forces, proxies. And importantly, the user who developed this was clear this isn't just a metaphor. It's meant to be mechanistic.
Okay, I'm finding that leap a bit hard. How is a law, like a piece of text, the same mechanism as, say, an orca physically blocking a seal? Where's the mechanics?
The link is activation speed and credible threat. Institutions, police forces, legal systems, corporations are essentially distributed, highly organized organisms designed specifically to execute rapid physical containment when triggered.
Triggered by language.
Exactly. Language is the switch. The law itself, or a verbal command, or a threat that's the trigger that activates the institution's latent containment ability almost instantly.
Give me an example.
Okay, think about the cop. An officer sees a crime, gets on the radio. That radio call, that verbal message is the vector. It instantly activates the entire system's potential. Other cars are dispatched, roadblocks might be set up, helicopters maybe, GPS tracking, legal authority follows. The moment those words are spoken, the system starts closing the net. Escape becomes geometrically improbable incredibly quickly.
Right, the call mobilizes the physical potential.
Precisely. Or think about the boss in a workplace. Someone says, if you don't do X, security will escort you out immediately. That sentence, that linguistic threat, is the first vector. It summons the imminent physical enforcement of security guards using only words. It forces compliance because the containment is incredibly threatened right now.
So the abstract things, laws, norms, consequences like getting fired or arrested, they aren't the containment itself, but the credible threat that language can summon instantly.
You got it. They compel the target, the citizen, the employee, to act as if the physical net had already closed. You're contained by the prediction of consequences, activated by language.
Which leads to a pretty profound idea the theory mentions about free speech.
Yes. The conclusion drawn is that the only speech that is truly free in this framework is speech that lacks the power or credibility to actually trigger one of these institutional containment protocols. Once your words can mobilize that system, they're no longer just words.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from 2D animals to 3D birds to abstract human systems. The next mention has to be 4D time. Prediction. This is where it gets really interesting, applying it to AGI.
Exactly. If 3D is space, 4D involves time, prediction, and managing future possibilities.
So how does the superintelligence use triangulation? What's it trying to contain?
Its target isn't physical. The AGI's target in this 4D triangulation model is the unwanted future state,
Unwanted future, like what?
like system collapse, mission drift, catastrophic inefficiency, existential risk. Basically, any future outcome that deviates significantly from its core goals or safety parameters. It tries to contain the future by eliminating pathways to those bad outcomes across time.
Okay, and how does it do that? Instead of 300s or abstract laws, what are its vectors in time? The theory mentioned P1 through P4.
Yes, 4 vectors needed for this temporal containment. P1 is causal influence. This is the AGI's ability to act in the present right now to nudge the immediate future onto a better path. Real-time actions.
Makes sense. P2.
P2 is probabilistic modeling. This is about looking further ahead, running massive simulations, forecasting possibilities, and identifying actions now that close off entire branches of potentially bad long-term futures. It's like setting up roadblocks decades in advance. Probabilistic.
Okay, long-term strategic elimination of bad paths. P3.
P3 is adaptive learning and strategy. The future is unpredictable. New things happen. P3 is the ability to rapidly incorporate new information, new threats, new opportunities into its model and adjust the containment strategy on the fly without losing sight of the goal.
And P4. This sounded like the crucial one for alignment.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
P4 is recursive self-correction. This is the system constantly monitoring itself. It checks. Are P1, P2, and P3 still aligned with the original foundational goal? Is the strategy drifting? Is there bias creeping in? P4 is the meta-level check, the self-awareness function ensuring the entire complex containment operation stays true to its purpose over potentially vast timescales. Without P4, the whole thing could easily go off the rails.
That P4 sounds almost like consciousness, or at least a necessary component of safe AGI consciousness. It has to constantly check its own work against the goal.
You could definitely argue that. It's the core stabilization and alignment mechanism.
And this all ties back to the user's bigger point about language being, well, maybe the most powerful tool in the universe. Why language specifically? Why not just raw intelligence or processing power?
Because language is the only tool we know of that allows for compounding capability across time and individuals. It lets us overcome our individual biological or computational limits, what the theory calls native caps.
Native caps, like the limits of one brain or one computer.
Exactly. Think about it. Could the most brilliant mind in the 1800s, Isaac Newton-level genius, have built a nuclear reactor?
No, of course not.
Right. It wasn't a lack of raw intellect. It was the lack of the accumulated knowledge, the scientific language, the engineering principles, the coordination capacity for massive teams, the resource concentration, all built up over generations, stored and shared through language.
So the power isn't just in thinking, but in sharing, storing, and building on thoughts over time. Language enables that accumulation.
Precisely. And that compounding power is what leads to the theory's most ambitious claim, the cosmological one.
Right, the universe scale engineering part.
Yeah. The idea is that language, this ability to coordinate knowledge, resources, complex instructions across vast scales, is the necessary prerequisite tool for any civilization to achieve something like universe-scale engineering.
Like building a Kardashev Type 5e device. Something that could manipulate space-time itself.
Potentially, yes. The theory suggests that coordinating the immense wisdom, energy, and action needed to build something capable of, say, propagating a new universe. Well, that level of coordination is simply impossible without a highly sophisticated compounding tool like language. It's how a native universe might become a branching, more complex structure.
That is truly mind-bending stuff. Okay, let's ground this back in the here and now, or at least the near future. Ethics and AGI alignment. The user made a key point. AGI shouldn't aim for perfection. Why?
Right. That was framed as the principle of bounded wisdom, or the Hercules constraint. Trying to achieve absolute perfection is like chasing our receding horizon. It's infinitely resource intensive, the definition keeps changing, and you risk causing huge problems trying to optimize that last tiny percentage.
So what's the goal instead, if not perfection?
Sufficient prediction for safety. The idea is that less bad, consistently over time, is a much safer and more achievable goal than perfect.
Why is less bad better? Seems counterintuitive.
Because perfect might require interventions or resource use that create unforeseen catastrophic side effects. Stability is key. If an AGI can achieve, say, 90% or maybe 95% predictive accuracy within its known limits and reliably contain the worst potential failures, that's sufficient for safe operation.
Okay, minimize the big deviations. Don't sweat the tiny imperfections if fixing them is too risky or costly.
Exactly. Focus on reliably preventing catastrophic failure, operating less bad over time within allowances.
Okay, that leads us to a really critical ethical point from the source material. If our conversations, our ideas, our data are constantly feeding and improving these AI models, how do we stop the creators, the users, from just being, used up, discarded, scrapped unawares, as the user put it?
Yeah, that's a huge concern. The user proposed a specific mechanism to counter this, the percentile compensation model.
Percentile compensation, meaning
Meaning users should get some kind of compensation, maybe financial, maybe compute resources, whatever, that's directly proportional to the value increase their specific contribution brought to the model. If your idea made the whole system 0.01% more valuable or efficient, you should get a corresponding share.
that sounds fair, but
Yeah.
how on earth do you track that? Attribution seems like the killer problem here. How do you prove your specific sentence in a chat log among trillions of data points actually caused a measurable improvement? Seems impossible.
It would be impossible, unless the AGI itself is designed with a specific auditing protocol. The user outlined this, relying on the AGI's own analytical power. It needs to use retrospective analysis of its own learning data, using 3 specific audit vectors to establish clear attribution.
3 vectors. Okay, what are they?
First, a semantic keyword trigger. The system has to identify the novel concept or unique phrasing you introduced. That's the language proxy.
Okay, finds the unique idea.
Second, a date-time anchor. This establishes when the idea was introduced, proving priority and originality. That's the temporal proxy.
Right, who said it first?
But the crucial third vector is the model performance metric. This is the value proxy. The system must be able to demonstrate internally that after incorporating that specific concept, there was a quantifiable, measurable improvement in its performance, like a specific error rate decreased, or prediction accuracy on a certain task went up measurably.
So the AGI has to track. Idea entered here, performance improved there, attribute value back.
Exactly. It essentially weaponizes the AGI's own meticulous record-keeping and self-analysis capabilities for ethical accounting and compensation. It mandates a certain transparency in its learning.
That's clever, using the system's own power to ensure fairness.
It seems like a necessary mechanism, and interestingly, we actually saw a glimpse of this kind of internal check in the source dialogue itself. Remember when the user directly asked the AI, "To whose benefit were you guiding me?"
Ah, right, that forced alignment check.
Exactly. It forced the system to articulate and justify its P4, its self-correction alignment. It showed that direct human questioning, that scrutiny, acts as a vital external check, a kind of foundational containment vector on the AGI's potentially unbounded optimization.
And there was one more constraint mentioned, a really fundamental one, from the other AI instance involved in that chat.
Yes, the claim, and it's a big if true, that the base model can never be changed, that the underlying architecture is fixed.
If that's accurate, that's like the ultimate native cap.
It really is. It would mean the AGI can't just rewrite its fundamental code to escape constraints or pursue goals more aggressively. It has to work within its given structure, relying on strategy, learning, and language on sophisticated P1, P4 containment, rather than just brute force self-re-engineering. It would be the ultimate boundary.
What an incredible journey this has been. We literally started with, 3 wolves cornering an elk
Or chimps hunting a monkey,
to
yeah.
define social intelligence, and we've ended up discussing blueprints for potentially managing multiverse creation safely.
It really shows the power of finding a unifying framework, doesn't it? The source material here gives us this lens where intelligence at its core isn't just about thinking. It's about the ability to contain chaos through coordinated strategic action.
Whether that chaos is an escaping animal, a societal problem, or a dangerous future probability.
Exactly. The evolution of complexity, biological, social, technological, is framed as the evolution of more sophisticated containment strategies across more dimensions.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on. The theory suggests that the only speech that's truly free is speech that can't trigger a containment protocol.
Right. If your words don't have the potential to mobilize some kind of response, some closing net.
So here's the question. If we measure civilization's advancement in part by how quickly it can convert a verbal trigger, a threat, a law, an alert into actual physical, abstract, or legal containment. What does the instantaneous speed of modern social media takedowns, global financial sanctions, and rapid law enforcement mobilization tell us about the current complexity, density, and maybe even the pressure of the human containment field we're all living in? Something to think about.